Thanks, John. So welcome everyone to Edmonton and Alberta, which is a spectacular place to live. And I say that as someone who's new to the province and new to the city, newish. I hope you have a great time here. I hope you explore the city. I've already heard that some of you have and are having a great time. So please continue doing that. Normally I don't show up to give opening remarks in a t-shirt. But I am so unbelievably delightfully happy that my Access 2005 t-shirt has not only survived, but lived in the back of my drawer and made it to Edmonton with me. So Access 2005 happened to be the first Access I attended, just a short walk from here over in the Chateau Lacombe, with the round revolving restaurant, which is a very odd thing, and a disco ball in the room where the event was held, which became quite the topic of conversation. So Access 2005 was the Access that got sort of Access started for me, and I've been to many Access conferences since then. It introduced me to a community that was doing the work that I was doing back in the organization I worked in at the time, but sort of lacked a community there where I could talk about those things, or that people could sort of inform that work broadly. And so it was really, really great to sort of walk into a room where I was like, wow, people are talking about the stuff that I do. I think that's a little bit less the case nowadays, but perhaps still so, to some degree. I had a lot of fun at Access 2005. I noticed that people were very welcoming. I think that's something that is a hallmark of Access. And they were even welcoming to those of us who were visiting from south of a certain border, which was very generous, and now I have come to expect. Speaking of t-shirts, I'm wearing this one because I just could not. I kept it for 14 years. I had to wear the t-shirt today. But as soon as I'm done speaking, I'm going to put on my orange t-shirt for Orange T-shirt Day, Orange Shirt Day. And I see a number of you know exactly what Orange Shirt Day is because you're wearing your orange shirt. But for those who are from away or don't know what it is, it's started about a half dozen years ago, and it commemorates the legacy, the unfortunate legacy of Canada's residential schools, and is a reminder of our commitment, or should remind us to commit to reconciliation. So if you are walking around the city today, I think you will see a lot of orange t-shirts. But while I'm still wearing the Access shirt, so the shirt and the front side of it, which you can't see, and of course it's falling apart, sort of tells a story about the emphasis of that day. It seemed like every talk, every third word was XML. XML, XML, XML. It became sort of this chant. And it seemed like everything would be XML based in the future. And to some degree that's true, and in some degrees it's also not true. It is what it is. It's part of the infrastructure. But it was like, I don't know, if I think that there was this rule in the program committee that if you weren't talking about something that had to do with XML, you didn't get in the program. So, and also for some of you who've been around Access for a long time back, I want to say this might have been the last one or the penultimate one, but Access used to have a poetry slam when poetry slams were kind of really big, and so there was this poetry crowd. And if you know me at all and know my relationship to literature, I have a very fraught and contested relationship with poetry. But I got this idea that the poetry slam could be a lot of fun, especially if you made fun of something. So I thought XML, and I'm in Edmonton, and it wasn't my first time in Edmonton, but I thought I'll do something with that. So I desecrated the national anthem by writing an anthem to XML, and then I walked around the room, and I think I'm looking at one of them in the back of there. I think, David, you might have been one of the victims. I don't remember. You could have been. You were there. Peter, I don't think you were. But I walked around the room and recruited what I called real Canadians, because I actually didn't really have the tune down right because I wasn't Canadian at the time. And so I walked around and I got this group of Canadians together and said, come sing the national anthem with different words with me. And I realize now just how probably awful that was, because I made them sing this horrible version of the wrong words with profanity in it, which now that I live in Canada, I realize just how I doubled down on the badness. I put profanity in the national anthem. But I won the prize. I won the poetry slam. And then Roy Tennant told me that I broke the poetry slam with my cheeky, bad song. So there were no more poetry slams, or maybe there was a half poetry slam the following year in Ottawa. So I'm here to apologize for breaking the poetry slam. What I really valued then, and what I still value about Access, is the way it brings people together. It moves around the country which is a really interesting way for a conference to be organized in a very deliberate fashion. And so that opens a lot of doors for people to attend who don't have the travel funds, who can't go far distances, but it sort of on a regular basis allows a different crowd to appear at Access. So there's like the traveling Access and there's the local Access, and they meet at Access. I think that's really, really neat. It's also opened its doors to a much more diverse community. If I look at the 2005 program, and this is no criticism, I think it's just a statement about how our world is changing. The parade of speakers in 2005, or the series of speakers in 2005, would have looked and sounded a lot like me, if you catch my drift. And now, when I look out at this room and I look at Access and I look at who's speaking at Access, there is much greater diversity in both attendance and speakers at Access, and certainly topically there's greater diversity. And that's a good thing. We need to do more, and we certainly need to do more, especially in our organizations. But I think Access has made a positive contribution. I think that it helped sort of push a conversation and shows that change actually is possible. I also sort of did some research yesterday, and I confirmed an impression I had was that Access used to be a somewhat larger event. But the location, of course, plays a big role there. When it was in St. John's, it was just a wee bit smaller than it is when it's in, say, Toronto. But if you appreciate Access, I hope that you would share that with your organization, and particularly with the leadership of your organization. If you look back at Access a decade ago, it was pretty common for there to be a fair number of library directors or AULs or senior administrators at Access. And then that really tailed off to the point where if you've been to any Accesses in recent years, you usually hear me lamenting or whining about this fact that there just aren't enough administrators here. And I think that's an interesting shift over the last 10 years, and we might want to think about what that means. I'd be wrong not to put out the word of caution about Access, about what it can do to your head. Be careful where you attend conferences. You might work there someday, which is why I work in Edmonton. It's not an exaggeration nor a misstatement for me to say that I'm standing here today because I was standing over there 14 years ago. Access really sort of threw open the door to a whole bunch of libraries and a whole way of doing library work that had otherwise been sort of closed off to me. And if I walk it back and I sort of think of the coincidences that 2005 led to, and then sort of the chain of events, it really is why I'm standing here today. And so I have to warn you about that, because it can lead to things like this, where you sort of completely change your life and turn it on its head and make your children hate you for moving them around all the places all the time. But this can happen. So just be careful when you go to Access, because you might end up working at those places. As with John, I'd like to say a lot of thank yous, specifically to all of you for coming to Edmonton to be here for Access. Thanks for bringing your energy, your intellect, your ideas, your curiosity, and just for being here. We had here at the University of Alberta Library, we had over 30 people pitch in to make this happen. I was really overwhelmed and amazed by the spirit of generosity and the willingness people expressed to help out. I threw out an email and said, hey, could we host Access? Come to this meeting if you're interested. And the room was full, and I thought, oh, I've come to a really, really great place. In particular, I'd like to acknowledge the 5 members of the steering committee, Peggy Sue Evanishan, John Huck, and Peter Binkley. Peter disappeared. Peter is somewhere here. Peter's in the back. Aha. And they co-chaired the steering committee, but they were joined by Lisa Mirage and Tanny Wong, who came in and provided really essential logistical and financial acumen support. So if I could ask I'm going to do something here. If I could ask the 5 of you, if you're in the room, to stand up. Just want to demonstrate something about Access real quick. Yeah, hold your applause. We're going to do a big round of applause. Now, I'd like everyone else, I'm not going to read all the names just to keep things on time, but I'd like everyone else at the U of A who volunteered, or anyone in Edmonton, or actually anyone from anywhere who volunteered to help organize this Access, to stand up. Come on, don't be shy, keep standing, okay. And now, for the rest of you, anyone who's ever volunteered to organize any Access, this is a lot of you, please stand up. Oh, I see some of you sitting down that I know should be standing up. Don't be shy. My point is to demonstrate just how many people have contributed to Access over the years, and I think you're being shy. And if we did this nationwide, we'd have hundreds of people standing up. So with that, I'd like to give everyone who's ever helped with Access a huge round of applause. And one last thank you. I'd like to preemptively thank the host for the next Access in 2020. So whoever you are, you have my eternal gratitude. For those of you who are Access insiders know that it was at Hamilton last year because I stuck my hand up in Saskatoon because nobody else would. And then I moved away and stuck everybody in Hamilton with organizing it, which was a super awesome trick. I'm not leaving Edmonton, so I'm not going somewhere next year. So somebody else is going to have to be the person who in the room who's like, all right, we'll do it. So I give up, I quit. Thank you for taking on Access next year, whoever you are and wherever you are. I know it will happen. So enjoy Edmonton, enjoy Access, and enjoy the talks. Thanks.